First of all, welcome to all of you who have taken the time to join us tonight for this new UNSW Co-op program, Business Career Chat. My name's Kay Carey, and I'm the head of the Co-op program. The purpose of this evening is to try and answer some of your questions, to give you some insights and to give you some strategies about how you might make some of the critical choices that you are facing in the next little while in terms of what degree you might want to begin your career journey with, but also how you might start to think about where your career journey might take you. So in addition to a few tips and suggestions, we have with us tonight a panel of sponsors and current co-op scholars who have each done or in the process of doing their 3 industry placements. And the sponsors and the students are going to talk to you a little bit about what's informed their journey so far. And I think from multiple stories, hopefully you get multiple inspirations about how you might start thinking about your own journey, what career, what degree you want to take, and then where you might want to start to think about building those layers of career from there. So before we start though, there will be a Q&A panel at the end. So please, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A as we go along so you don't forget them, and also so we can manage them a little bit. And at the end, you'll have the chance to ask the students and us and our sponsor some direct questions. If we don't get to your question tonight, we will certainly answer all of the questions, and we will send some of the key slides from tonight, plus the final Q&A answers for all questions through to everyone who's registered for tonight's session. So don't worry if you miss bits and pieces, it'll come in an email after the session. The session tonight is being recorded, so just so everybody is aware of that, and I hope no one has a problem with that. Okay, let's sort of start the session by thinking about what are the key things that you need to remember about careers, right from the start. First thing is, some of you may feel you know exactly where you want to go, exactly what you're going to do in your career, and you've got a really strong plan. Well, I would suggest that there's a lot of room for movement in those sort of decisions at such an early stage. But that said, others of you might feel a bit like the image on the screen, and that is so many options, so many roads to take. Where do I go? Where do I start? How do I get to where I want to go? And really, I guess our key messages initially are, there is no black and white, really. There is no, you're not taking a decision now for the end of the journey. You're taking a decision for the start of the journey, and it will build from there. And the one thing I think I'd say is, don't be constrained by traditional views. And by that, I mean, this is your career journey. You need to take your own decisions. So don't do something just because your mum did it, or because your brother's doing it, because, you know, everybody thinks you should do it, all your mates are doing it. You know, this is your career journey, and you will be most successful when you do what works and fits you. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, there's no right or wrong decisions. The only risk in this is that you are paralyzed by thinking there are too many options, rather than thinking of it as you're not making life decisions here. You are really, if you think about it, opening doors to your future. And that's really where you should start. And there are always multiple ways to get to any destination. And I'm sure when you hear the career journeys or the career progress that our speakers will talk to you about shortly, you'll see that everyone's taking different directions to get to where they want to go. So that's the first thing. If we then talk about how do you take the first step? Because that's what you're really doing at this time in your life. You're thinking about where to start the journey. There's a great career ahead, but where am I going to start? What degree am I thinking about doing? And how do I start to build that that starting point. And these things, some of you might think some of these things that I'm about to say to you are pretty lame, but really this is about your future. It's worth investing a bit of time really thinking hard and examining what you think is most important to you and what you think will fit you best. And take some time to think about that. The first thing is, what are you good at? You know, what are your skills? What are your talents? What have people told you all your life that you've been good at? What do your teachers tell you you're good at? What would you like to be good at? What would you be prepared to invest in to be good at? And how might that inform the sort of career that you might like to start with? The other thing to think about are your values. What is important to you? I think that as a result of COVID, many people really re-examined their work-life balance and what they might want out of a career. So you have the chance to think about that now as you start to build, and that might change as you go along, absolutely. But what are your values? Do you really want top pay, the top job, no matter how much challenge and how much work there is involved in getting there? Do you want a more balanced work and life scenario? Do you want to work as part of a team? Are you more of an individual player and you want to work, perhaps you want to create something for yourself? Do you want to be involved in a startup? Or do you want to be involved in giving back to the community through not-for-profits or whatever? What are the things that matter to you? And how might those influence what you're thinking about in terms of where you want to go? The third one is about your interests. What are you really passionate about? What are the things you really love and the things that you really love to do? And if you think, well, I don't really know what those things are, apart from maybe playing football or netball or whatever, but if you don't really know what those things are, think about what you Google when you've got time to look at things. Think about people who inspire you, like who you really think are great. Or think about, I don't know, things that you're curious about, things that you really want to know more about. Maybe they're the things that you're passionate about. Again, those things can help inform where you go with your career. And finally, think about what opportunities are presenting themselves in the environment today. Yeah, or hearing about, cybersecurity, or we're hearing about, different ways to approach marketing, and all of the things that you're hearing around you. Fintech, is that something you're interested in? Think about the things that are happening around you and whether they're things that might motivate you towards a career direction. So, they seem like relatively simple questions, but it takes, if you spend a bit of time thinking about it, you start to open some doors, and that's really what your thinking at this stage should be about. Where do you go from there? Well, we would say you need to ask more questions. Yeah, you need this stage of your journey is all about asking questions. Not only ask yourself those questions, ask others questions. Ask people about their experiences. Ask everybody that you can about their experiences. Get some life experience yourself and hear some life experiences from others. You're going to hear a bit about that a little bit later. But you have the opportunity to talk to people, to Google, to read. Yeah, start to the things that you're interested in, explore them through what people have done with them. Yeah, and these days it's so easy to have, the big companies, many of them have chat opportunities and, all online. You can start to explore these things before you need to engage with these things. So if you're wondering, and if you're trying to take a degree decision and trying to inform where that might take you, start to talk to people. Talk to the people you know, talk to your family, of course, but talk to people that they might recommend to you or that they know, and make some incursions out into that world. But also life experience is about thinking about, you know, working with some teams, getting some work experience, working as a casual. I know it's not professional experience, but working as a casual teaches you how to work as part of a team, how to work with different leadership styles, and you learn from that. So the fact that you're working as a casual might not be a professional opportunity, but you gain professional skills from doing any of those things. You gain professional skills, you know, from playing in football teams or netball teams or whatever, but you need to start to expand those things and seek out as many opportunities as you can and go for them. Yeah, you need to start exploring the world and how you might want to position yourself in the world. So the other thing about more experience and more opportunities is that these days it will be as important to employers that you are a balanced, broad person, diverse person, as it is the marks that you achieve. Because increasingly employers, and I'm sure our Michelle tonight, when she talks to you, will endorse this. They're looking for broadly balanced individuals as much as they're looking at the marks that you get at university. So when you start to build those opportunities, you build them for your future as well. Okay, my last sort of general message is that don't panic. Don't panic. As I said before, you are not making your final career decision. Building careers is a lifelong thing, and it will take you a lifetime to build a career. You are deciding where you want to start. So you're collecting information, you're collecting experiences, you're talking to people to choose a career direction, a starting point, a launch pad. If you think about your first degree, and I say your first degree because many of you are going to do more than one in your lifetime, but even within your first degree, university allows you, and particularly if you do a co-op degree, you have to choose a major, but that's one. You can do a second major. Our students tonight, some of them, certainly Lockie will tell you about, you know, doing two majors. You can do, and you can do even in co-op these days, you can do a double degree. So across different faculties, you can use your university career, and it is the start of your career, to build a whole bundle of skills. It's not just one. And of course, co-op allows you to build a whole lot of professional skills as well. So you're building skills and capabilities, technical skills and capabilities, and you should be building bundles of those, whether it's via a double major, a double degree, a single major with some minors, or adding some passion projects like learning language because you want to go and work in Asia, or whatever it is. You need to think about your career as your degree as a bundle of skills that you can put together to launch your career. And the other thing to say is lots of new opportunities are going to open up in the time that you are studying. Yeah. So you might change your mind. You might change your direction. You might go completely off the track, but that's okay. As long as you do it, thinking about you know, what the decisions that you are taking, and they're decisions that fit you. Okay, so now comes the advertising, guys. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide. You're here tonight because you're interested in business, and obviously I'm interested in you doing business at UNSW because I, you know, very biased would say is the best place to do a business degree. But of course, the lessons and the information and the insights that you're hearing tonight and that you'll hear from our speakers are relevant to wherever you study. If you want to study at UNSW, though, and if you're interested in doing it with a co-op scholarship, then when we talk about business, and we'll go to the next slide, Karen, I think, we talk about business, what's available within our business framework through the co-op program, and of course through UNSW, is a stream in accounting and business management, is a stream in finance and banking, a stream in marketing, a stream in actuarial studies. I've also included data science and decisions, and in fact that should include advanced maths as well at the end of that spectrum. And while that doesn't sit in the business faculty, it actually for us sits in the science faculty. Many of the careers overlap, and many of the companies that you will interact with as part of a co-op program interact in those spaces. And below that, and this is something we'll send out to you, I don't expect you to read it all now, and it's certainly not comprehensive, but we've just tried to show you the range of careers that doing an accounting and business management degree might launch you into. Might not be where you end up, but might launch you into, or doing a data science and decisions. What sort of careers might that launch you into? Now, accounting and business management, yes, you can become an accountant. And that's a field that's just changing dramatically at the moment as AI and everything else comes into play. You can become an accountant, but you can, from an accounting degree, you can also become an investment banker. You can be, you can move into international business, you can move into human resources, and you can move into a whole range of spaces. And the same thing for, a career in finance and banking. You can be an investment banker, you can become an investment banker, but you can also become an accountant, and many do, by the way. You can certainly be a part of any sort of corporate management process where finance resourcing is a fundamental part. So these careers, there's a lot of overlap, there's a huge amount of breadth, and there's a huge spectrum. And that's what I mean by you're not choosing one path. You're choosing a starting point, and then you can branch out from there. And of course, with double majors, you can do accounting and business management and marketing. You can do accounting and business management and actuarial studies. With double degrees, you can go across faculties. So you can do finance and banking and computer science if you're interested in fintech. Yeah, so you've got to build those bundles of skills. That's really my message. Okay, now we're going to get to the much more important part of the night, and that is the panel of people that we have amassed for you to talk to you tonight. And the first one is Michelle Minet. She's a senior manager, graduates pipeline, group performance management. Big title, Michelle, big title at Westpac. And of course, Westpac is our oldest and largest sponsor in the co-op program, and so this is a really important one for us. So in a moment, we're going to hear from Michelle. I've then chosen to use a video for the second sponsor, and that's a video that talks about the world of marketing, because it gives you a bit of a contrast to perhaps if you're more interested in employing your creative brain than your analytical brain, you might be more interested in going down that path. Rebecca Lucas, this is a video that she filmed a few years ago for us, where she was working at Unilever. She's now the senior global brand manager for Lululemon in Canada. So she's moved on, but I thought this is an early career video, and it will be interesting for you to hear. And then we're going to introduce you to two of our current co-op scholars, Nala Hong. Nala's a 2021 Actuarial Studies scholar with us, and Nala will take you through her journey so far in terms of why she chose the degree she chose, and how the placements she's done have informed where she thinks she wants to go. And then Lockie Bowen, and Lockie's a 2020 accounting and business management scholar with us, and he's in his final year, and Lockie will also talk to you about his journey so far. Lockie is speaking to us from his holiday overseas. So thank you, Lockie. That is very kind of you to join us. Okay, let's move first to our first speaker, Michelle. Would you like to talk to us a bit about your journey so far and what you think might be important for people considering their launch pad?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Kay, and really appreciate this opportunity to talk to all these wonderful, wonderful young women and young men online. So what I thought I'll do is I'll talk to you a little bit about my journey, and it's so good to listen to you, Kay, because now I actually wanted to come back to UNSW and study. So yeah, so I am actually in Westpac for nearly 17 years, and I don't know why I end up with that long. There's a background, a little bit of story behind that. So I'm actually currently in culture and capability team. So we look after finance family across Westpac. So Westpac's got about 5,000 employees, and finance family is about 1,000. And I was looking at Kay's slides, and that finance family consists of, the actuary, the financial accounting, management accounting, business partnering, statutory reporting. So accounting and finance is so broad, and I love what Kay said about, bundle of skill set and bundle of experience. So from a degree, you can actually go into so many wonderful things that you never thought of, where you would end up. So for me, how it all started is I'm actually originally from Burma. So I was born in Burma, and I actually finished my high school in Burma. So, and then, so like all of you now, year 11 and year 12. So I've actually finished high school, and then I actually even did 1 year of university back in Burma, and actually did computer science. To be honest, I really, just because I have a logical brain, I didn't really want to study computer science, but my dad wanted me to study computer science. So trying to be a good girl, I thought, okay, I'll go and study. But to be completely honest, I hated it because, as much as I love maths, it's coding. And back in those days, like COBOL and all of that. Then I had the opportunity to come to Australia. So when I arrived, what I really wanted to study was business. So I actually started at TAFE, Ultimo TAFE. I did my accounting diploma. And then while I was doing that, again, had the opportunity to study at UTS. So I did Bachelor of Business, majoring accounting, and sub-major in information system. So I was fortunate enough while I was studying, I've got a job as well, and my first job was accounts receivable, and then to accounts payable, and then into assistant accountant. And by the time I finished uni, I was an accountant, and I actually started. And the only reason I did that was because I get money, I get paid, I get to spend on the things that I want to spend on. And back then, just because I like maths and I wanted to study how the business works and things like that, not much knowing what I really wanted to do. But in fact, my real interest is actually, if I had the opportunity now, I would be studying psychology and journalism, because I love people, I love culture. And it was a bit a bit daunting when I first arrived, because obviously English is my second language, but I was very lucky that I have people around and all of that. And then after my business degree, I did obviously a CPA, and it was just like a progression by. But at the back of my head and my heart, in reality, what I always wanted to do was work with people. So I actually volunteer at Burma Community Welfare Centres as well. So that was actually my very first job in Australia, and I absolutely loved it. And just because I was on student visa and all of that, I had to finish my business degree. And from working throughout different commercial businesses, I end up at St. George Bank. So from the St. George Bank, there was a merger and acquisition, so on and so forth, and end up being in Westpac. And that was 17 years after. And during my 17 years, even though I've started with my business degree, the things that I've done were like change management, project management, um, business partnering, really working with peoples. And what I've noticed while I was doing these things was because I'm drawn to listening to people's stories, like, trying to, I love helping people and making, problem solvings and so on and so forth. And all the stuff that I've actually learned from uni. But then again, it wasn't really planned this way. So you discover yourself, more and more. And because I love psychology so much, I end up back then 4 years ago, I went back and studied my master's psychology in coaching psychology and also in career coaching as well as business coaching and executive coaching. And hence, as much as I'm an accountant, I end up being in this team now, which is called Culture and Capability, and I look after graduate Westpac finance and accounting graduates as well, and hence the title. Um, but what the counsel and the message that I would say is to everybody is, like be curious. Like I would say 3 C's. Like if you don't remember anything tonight, 3 C's from me is, be curious, ask lots and lots of questions, be have the courage, have the courage to do, what you're passionate about, what your passion will change, your purpose will change, because while you're doing things, you discover things. And don't do not be scared of taking action and be failing, because the best time, the deepest learnings always come from, I know they call it failing, but in reality, that's where you learn most and where you grow most. And when you're actually comfortable, that means that you're actually not learning. So that's why when you do, when you have a new subject or new job, at the beginning you're not that comfortable, so your learning curve is, steep. But then again, once you're comfortable, that means you, in a way, you're okay, but your growth has a little bit of stunt. So that means whenever you feel scared, think of this: that's actually a good thing, because you're learning and you're growing. So be courageous, be curious, and be compassionate. Be compassionate. Have compassion for yourself, have compassion for others. Do not be too hard on yourself. The journey is, the world is your oyster. Enjoy the journey. You have goals, but please enjoy and do as much as possible. Ask for help, because a lot of people, most people are very willing to help. And don't be scared, ask questions. Just, people are there to help you. So I would say explore, explore, enjoy, and then surround yourself with people that you can learn from, and have explore whatever that you're passionate about, do it, and then you reflect. And then while you're exploring things, you discover your own strengths and which ones that you like a bit more or which one that you don't like more. So, and then everything, every time you learn something, put in your, bag of tools, and then later down the track, you can actually look back in your tool bag and say, oh, which one, I want to actually bring back to actually use it. So yeah, my main message and encouragement to you is be curious, have the courage, and be compassion, to yourself and to others, so that you can pretty much, grow and grow every time, and, every year, every quarter. So don't be too scared to thinking that, oh, when you have too many choices, what choice should I take? You can take it, but then again, it's okay. You can go back and do, because I don't think you will actually lose anything. Everything is a bonus. You're not wasting time. You will always learn something. You will always learn something from whatever you do. And these are all transferable skills that you can take forward. So for example, for me, I'm an accountant, I study accounting, I study business. I am using all of that now as much as I'm doing coaching and all of that, because I am coaching to finance family. I am actually training. So all of the things that I've learned, I'm using. There's a lot of transferable skills. So, and then the university courses nowadays are so good that, it's they're specialized, but at the same time they're so broad that you can actually switch and actually have this bank, bank of knowledge. So yeah, so that would be my message and my journey so far. So I will pass it on back to Kay.
Thanks, Michelle. And I think at the end we might, pull some of those thoughts together, but I'm sure that there'll be some questions. So thank you so much. And the next person on the agenda is, of course, a video. So it is Beck Lucas. Beck talking about her experience early on in her career. She talks about her early career. In Unilever, and I think you'll see that she reflects many of the messages that Michelle has just given you. So Karen, can we play the video, please?
Yes, I will just say we are working with technology here, so if something goes wrong, just please be patient with us, or me.
My name is Rebecca Lucas. I am a 2010 Co-op Marketing Scholar. I studied at the University of New South Wales. I studied Commerce Marketing and Management and was super fortunate to be part of the Co-op program. I now work at Unilever on the brand Dove. So I'm based in the global head office in London, and I lead sustainability for the Dove brand globally. So I'm here to share a little bit about my career journey so far. I became interested in a career in marketing when I was at school. I loved art and I loved business studies. So I was looking for a way to combine both the creative and analytical sides of my brain. I found out about the Co-op program from a mentor I knew in the business world, and that would be my first point of advice is it's a really good idea, particularly early on in your career, and I'm still early on in my career, to build a really strong network of mentors who can surround you, and the Co-op program is a great way to build mentors as well. So after joining the Co-op program, which gave me great exposure across marketing and a great introduction to business through my 3 placements, I, at the end of the program, joined a graduate program at Coca-Cola Amatil. And it wasn't a specialist program in marketing. It was actually broader than that. It was the first year that Coca-Cola had a cross-functional program called the Customer Leader Program. And so I did 2 years of rotations across sales, finance, supply chain, and marketing. And after that, was still interested in marketing, so joined the Coca-Cola company in an assistant brand manager role where I worked on water brands. So I supported the marketing team across both local brands such as Mount Franklin, as well as global brands like Pump. Outside of my work, I was doing a lot of work in not-for-profit advocacy and fundraising. So I had lost my dad while I was studying at university to brain cancer, which made me particularly passionate about raising funds and awareness for cure brain cancer. I started a medical research grant in my dad's memory and a fundraising event called the Beach Walk for Brain Cancer to raise funds and awareness. And in the last 10 years, that event has grown to be one of over 30 walks that raise funds across Australia each year. And so something that I'm super proud of, also something that inspired in me an interest in not-for-profit marketing. So about 5 years ago, I moved to the UK and I joined in the UK. I joined Movember Foundation that had started in Australia, but of course had become very global. I was the first global brand and cause promotion marketing manager in the organisation. So I was responsible for raising awareness of the cause areas that Movember supports. And it was for me a great introduction in not-for-profit and particularly working in not-for-profit. But I still had an interest in kind of getting back to big brand marketing, which was what really excited me at Coca-Cola. And so I joined Unilever in the UK. And Unilever is a company that really promotes brands having a purpose at the heart of the brands. So we say that purposeful brands grow twice as fast as non-purposeful brands. And in my first year at Unilever, I worked on the brand Lynx. It's called Axe everywhere else in the world, but known to Australians as Lynx. And I was responsible for defining the purpose or the social mission of the brand. After that, I moved on to Dove. And Dove, of course, is a brand that has a very well-defined social purpose, all about real beauty, as many people know it. And my role on Dove is about crafting the purpose for the planet, which is about all about Dove's environmental impact. So not only lessening the impact of the brand on the planet, but ensuring that Dove goes beyond having less impact to having a positive impact on the planet. So I work across projects such as plastics, no animal testing, climate change, and you might have seen recently that Dove made a new announcement about the Dove Forest Restoration Project. So these are all projects that I'm leading and working with a very close team of cross-functional experts within the business, as well as external experts outside of the business. And of course, partnering really closely with Dove's priority markets, so the US, Europe, Asia, and working with many people to ensure that we bring our sustainability programs to life in a way that is impactful, not only for our consumers, but also for the planet. So it's a job I'm super proud of and passionate about. And I guess my advice for anyone that is interested in a career in marketing is to have an open mind, to kind of embrace all of the opportunities that come up, to build a strong network of mentors wherever possible, and to enjoy kind of working with and learning from diverse people who you will come across in your career. Because for me, that's how I've ended up where I am today, is learning with and working with and learning from some very amazing people. So I think good luck with wherever kind of the next step takes you, and please do feel free to reach out if you have any questions at all about the co-op program.
Okay, well, that was Rebecca. As I said, she's now moved to Canada and to a different brand, but I think you can see she's had an amazing career journey. So I hope that's given you another side to insight. Now let's move on to our co-op scholars, and for them to talk you through the journey that they've had so far, both joining and deciding what they were going to do, and then the companies that they've worked for and the sort of breadth of experience that they've had. So Nala, can I ask you to share your journey with us, please?
Thanks, Kay. Can you guys all hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Okay, awesome. Hi everyone, I'm Nala. I'm a third year Actuarial Co-op Studies student. A bit of background to Actuarial. It's a degree that's focused on analysing risk, and I would say it builds a business foundation for you in the first year with commerce economic subjects, and then more of an actuarial foundation with introductory maths and finance courses, before kind of branching out into more practice-specific courses. So why I chose actuarial studies, as a lot of you might be in this position at the moment, I really did not know what I wanted to do until maybe halfway through year 12. I did have actuarial studies recommended to me a few times because I've always enjoyed math and wasn't bad at it. I did think about other things. There are a lot of things that I enjoy or are passionate about, but not really anything that I actually wanted to do. So, for example, I really liked animals, but I don't think I wanted to be a vet or like a zookeeper. So I did decide to research more about an actuarial degree and what that might look like, since I didn't previously know anything about it. It seems like a really specific degree at first, but it's really very broad in the opportunities it offers. It's much more technical than other business degrees, and employers really recognize this. I'll kind of go into my personal journey with Co-op now. So as you can see on the slides, I've done 3 placements and currently still at the 3rd. So I've always been passionate about kind of applications of data and understanding of risk in different industries. I think that's really interesting, and kind of using a unique skill set to drive change in an innovative way, which I'll talk more about. So my first placement was last year. I spent 3 months at the National Disability Insurance Agency in the actuarial monitoring team. So this was in the government sector. Our team there was responsible for kind of producing regular reports and monitoring key metrics for the scheme. A highlight during this placement for me was preparing an internal presentation on an inflation metric update to our own actuarial team. Key learnings, I kind of developed a much greater knowledge of a government scheme in general. And I think it being my first placement, a very big key takeaway was attention to detail. So submitting work in a professional environment, you really do have to look over it twice, or usually more than that. My second placement was at Finity. This was in the consulting general insurance sector. And I was responsible for various valuation projects, a reinsurance review, and researching and developing a lot of internal products. So this offered a much bigger variety as general insurance does. And the highlight here for me was an opportunity to co-author Finity's first paper on climate change and its impact on private health insurance. Key learnings from this placement, I think I grew my industry knowledge a lot about general insurance as I got to work in different areas such as workers' compensation, motor insurance, and climate perils. Consulting sector also requires a lot more time flexibility. So I think I took away a lot of time management skills and effective communication skills. I'm currently at Suncorp. I started here about 2 weeks ago, and I'm in the natural perils pricing team. So this team is responsible for perils pricing models updates, and we work really closely alongside climate scientists, which I think is very interesting. I'm currently investigating methods of improving our flood model. And I think key learnings from this placement are going to be increased autonomy. So I kind of already realized, this being my 3rd placement, they give me a lot more space to learn by myself, and they really trust me to do things a lot more. And technical skills, including geospatial data manipulation. I would say my overall career aspirations, summing that up, has always been to do something that's both challenging, so offering kind of new problems which require innovative solutions, and something that's also enjoyable, so kind of giving social impact and learning new things. At university, things that kind of challenged me and I also enjoyed doing, which helped inform my future aspirations, would include kind of coding assignments that helped me to realize the importance of technical skills and usage of data. Another relevant extracurricular was case competitions, which are usually sponsored by companies, which come up with a real life problem for you or your team to solve. Overall, wrapping up with general advice for anyone considering doing a business or actuarial studies degree specifically, I would advise to form an idea of the industries or practice areas you may want to try out. At the same time, definitely don't panic if you're not sure yet. Building experience in these areas is the best way to help you narrow this down. So I'd recommend taking any opportunity that you can. You really never know what you might end up really enjoying or not enjoying so much. Being fortunate enough to have received a Co-op scholarship myself, I can say that being able to work in all these different industries has really helped me to inform what areas I wish to pursue in the future. Working in government, consulting, and general insurance sectors. I really also appreciate the wide network of scholars and professional mentors. If you're considering applying to Co-op, keep in mind that it really doesn't restrict your overall time at university. You've still got time for electives, gen eds, and time to pursue an exchange opportunity or to join different societies. In fact, I'd actually say it gives you more time to pursue these, as you really don't need to worry about applying for internships during uni. For example, outside of my placements, I was able to focus on my exchange and society roles. So overall, I really value this experience and I would definitely recommend applying. Okay. If you choose...
Oh, sorry. No, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Keep going.
I was just going to say, if you choose actuarial, be ready for a lot of maths. But yeah, okay, I'll pass it on to Lucky now.
Okay, thanks, Nala. I think the most wonderful thing here is that we do tend to have a view of actuarial studies that it's very structured and perhaps really narrow. However, working with the government and national disabilities and working on natural perils and flood modelling, and also what self-driving cars and the risk around that, it's phenomenal. So that was really enlightening. Thanks, Nala. Fantastic view of how wide or broad something can be. Lockie, over to you to talk to us about your experience in accounting and business management.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Yep. Okay, so I'm Lockie. I'm in my final year, and yes, I'm joining you from Lisbon, but I really don't mind. So my degree, I majored in accounting and a second major called business strategy and economic management. I don't think that continues to this day, but there's still economics as a second major. And the reason I chose those two really was because I was passionate about, the role of accounting everywhere in business. I think people think of accounting and think of it within one particular role of the accountant, and then that work happens totally separately from the rest of the business, which is just so untrue. Accounting is everywhere. You need it to manage your business well. You need it to run your stock markets, and to be a good investor, you need to understand accounting, and you need it every day when you're running your team and you're running your business. And then the economic side of things, I've loved that since high school, and I think I really tried to follow that advice that everyone's been giving all of you guys, which is to just do what you like. Usually you're good at what you like, so that works out. Do what you're passionate about and interested in, because it's so much easier to just do. So I picked my major because I was passionate about it, and economics to me is really the science of decision making. That's how I like to think of it. And in business, decision making is very, very important, and the word that's always thrown around that links to that is strategy. So that's why I chose those. As for my placements, I did 3. So I finished my last placement quite a while ago now. The first one was at JP Morgan in a team called the Legal Entity Control Team. So they were responsible for sort of managing and presenting the business performance regularly. And that was very heavy with financial accounting. So that's typically what people who haven't seen accounting think accounting is, right? So all of your numbers on the screen, all your big spreadsheets and all of that, that produce a balance sheet and an income statement. But really, I think it was great that I went to JP Morgan because I was just absolutely thrown in the deep end. JP Morgan is the world's biggest bank. And I was sort of just totally overwhelmed being thrown into such a complex business, but it was good because it forces you to learn. And obviously that knowledge of a sector and an industry that's just everywhere and so important in finance and banking. But equally valuable was my conclusion that I didn't want to work in finance and banking. So I think that answers one of the Q&A questions I think that came up, is how does the Co-op program actually help you with starting up your career, well, the first thing that it does for you is help you choose what you don't want to do and what you might be more interested in. So that moves to the second and third placements. I was at Arnott's or Campbell Arnott's second. So lots of free Tim Tams there. I was in the supply chain finance team. So I directly looked after fixed assets, all of our purchasing machinery, sale of machinery, all that stuff. But I also had the opportunity to branch into sort of analyzing our production performance, so how well were we making the Tim Tams today? How much waste did we produce and so on, as well as the engineering team to try and keep them on track and keep them ahead of their investment planning for the next 5 years. And the key learnings there were this concept of a supply chain. That word's thrown around loads in business, especially in your business degree and in the news. But to really understand the back end of it and see how many people and how many steps are involved from getting a Tim Tam from a bunch of raw ingredients into a packet at Coles or Woolies is really fascinating. And of course, it's a consumer-facing industry, which is a whole different set of thinking. I mean, I guess you're selling to a different group of people. So it's very interesting to learn about that. And I think this was valuable to me because it sort of said, oh, I could work here. I could definitely work at Arnott's. I really enjoy it. They make delicious things for everyone to enjoy. And then I moved to Alexion, which is a pharmaceuticals company. You probably don't know what Alexion is. They make treatments for ultra rare diseases. So kind of like 20 people in a million might have this disease. But they were bought up by AstraZeneca, and that's obviously a household name now. So I was in the finance team, a very small finance team responsible for basically everything finance in Alexion in Australia and New Zealand. And I took on a large role as a finance business partner and worked a lot on performance analysis. So we were having problems with performance, and because of the rules surrounding how much you can know about patients in pharmaceuticals, it was very difficult to actually find out why we were having problems with performance. So I worked on that for a few months. And the key learnings there were really, the health system in Australia, but also elsewhere where Alexion operates, so the US health system and overseas health systems. Really interesting to learn about, as well as just the pharma industry in general. People think of the pharmaceutical industry as kind of predatory. They're just out there to make as much money as possible. But when you start to learn about it and think about how much money they require to invest to produce a drug to treat people who previously could never have been treated, I think that it's somewhere I would really like to work. It's more meaningful work. It's more meaningful than a lot of people, I guess, would view pharmaceuticals as. So in terms of where I am now, I did get a job offer from Arnott's, and I had a really good network at Alexion, and I feel I could go back there. And that's the other thing about the co-op program is each placement is like a 6-month interview. So if you do really well, it would be very silly of that company to sort of not hire you because you've already got 6 months of industry knowledge, company knowledge, a network inside the business. You've made friends, everyone gets along with you. You're valuable to that company. So the likelihood is you'll get an offer from one of your sponsors, or you can approach your manager at a sponsor and say, hey, look, I'd really like to work here. Can you figure something out for me? And I think that's really likely if you perform well in your placements. But instead of take one of those offers, I still felt like I wanted to learn more. I'm still very unsure as to where I'll end up in 5 years. If you ask me that, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I would not have a clue. So I applied for consulting roles, so management consulting, simply because it ticked the boxes that right now I'm interested in having ticked. So I want something that's dynamic, that changes all the time. It's not similar throughout the year. I wanted something that was challenging. I wanted to learn about different industries. And I wanted to, be out and about. I didn't want to be at the same desk all day, right? So I wanted to actually physically be out and about. And so that fit really well with management consulting. So I applied for a few places and got a role at Oliver Wyman. Funnily enough, they sort of focus on finance and insurance, which is not where I wanted to end up, but I'm still open to exploring that. But I think that the co-op program was very, very key to me getting that role. I only decided I wanted to do management consulting 2 months before I started applying for roles. And, there's loads of applicants who had decided that years beforehand. So I was at a disadvantage but I had my industry experience in 3 different industries, and I think that was really valuable to my application process, and probably the reason I got in. But you know, my key advice, other than follow what interests you and what you're passionate about, is it's totally fine to not know where you want to be. I'm going to stay in consulting for 2 years, but after that, I might go back to Arnott's, I might go back to Alexion, I might stay in consulting. I've got eyes on my own business as well. So I'm really unsure, but that's totally fine. As long as you're always working on something valuable and something that's teaching you something new, then at least you're not wasting your time.
Okay, thanks, Lockie. That was, again, another perspective on how much breadth you can get out of the co-op program, but I think both Lockie and Nala indicated how important industry experience is. And if you're not part of the co-op program, if that's not going to be your jam, then make sure you get that experience somehow. Do internships. You have to get this sort of some breadth and experience to really appreciate where you want to go, how you want to take your degree. Now, we've not got a long time to go. There are a couple of questions. I'm going to hand over to Barbara, and maybe she can put the questions up. If we don't get to your question, or if you have a question and you haven't put it in the Q&A yet, at the end, perhaps if you're still around, we're happy to try and answer them, but we will certainly answer all of the questions that are in the Q&A and send them through to all of you who have registered. Yeah. So, Barbara.
Thanks, Kay. So we have a couple of questions. Student is asking, can you do a double degree with the Coop Actuarial or Finance and Banking program? Example, another degree in Commerce.
Look, we are getting on this bandwagon for quite a long time, and many of you will know, if you know anything about co-op, is that doing a double degree was really a difficult thing to do. I think we've or you as students have taught us that this is something that you're not prepared to give up. You definitely want to do a double degree, so we are certainly open now to doing more double degrees, and they are certainly available. So you can certainly, what you have to do if you apply to co-op, you have to apply to do your single co-op program, so your single major first. Of course, you can do a double major as part of any degree program at UNSW. So even if, as I say, if you apply and you get an accounting and business management scholarship with co-op, as Lockie did, you can do economics, you can do business management. Yeah, a little more difficult with actuarial studies, because actuarial studies requires you, what you do as part of your co-op program is you do a number of your professional qualifications. So in addition to getting a degree in actuarial studies, you're actually doing your professional qualifications, so that when you get into business, you really hit the ground running and you are ready to practice basically as an actuary. So that's a little bit more difficult there, although we are looking also at how to extend, and particularly extend the actuarial into the other commerce areas, so that you can build more depth into your degree. Across other programs, yes, a number of our scholars are now doing double degrees, as diverse as accounting and aviation, or finance and banking and computer science. So yes, those double degrees exist. We have approval to do finance and banking and law as well. We have to get these degrees approved. We don't have students doing that double at the moment, but it's a degree that is possible. There are some controls around it, because you have to be able to do your placements, and you have to be able to complete those, of course, satisfactorily, and you have to be able to fit in all of the things that co-op requires. But certainly many students, and many of our engineering students as well, are doing double degrees already, and they are increasingly available. So yes, you have to enroll in a single degree, business, accounting, whatever is your passion, finance, marketing. But then your first choice is to do a double major. Your second choice is to do a double degree. And all of those things are increasingly, well, they're possible. Yeah. So
thanks, Kay. So we have another one about the actuarial studies in finance and banking. Student is asking, I was considering doing co-op for actuarial studies or finance and banking. How much work is required and how is the work-life balance ratio?
Well, I'm going to ask Nala in a minute, but I'm going to say that, yeah, that's one of the reasons why doing placements is really good, because you get to see what the work-life balance is like before you actually start your career in those places. Yeah. And I would certainly say that it's a truism that finance particularly is an extremely exacting career choice in terms of work-life balance. But Nala, what advice would you give somebody thinking, I'm sure you've got friends in doing finance and banking as well. So what would be your advice for someone considering those two options?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a completely valid concern. Structure-wise, I think this is the same for finance. So first and fourth year, you're just doing normal full-time study like any other student. It's second and third year where you'll have the challenge of kind of balancing your studies with placement. From my experience doing actuarial placements, I haven't really been asked to work outside of normal 9 to 5 hours. Generally, your managers, since they will have information on the co-op program, they understand that you've got academic commitments alongside your internships. And you will get like study leave days for your final exams or midterms. Actuarial courses do get hard. It does get hard to balance. After even just a normal 9 to 5 day, I will feel really tired. But I think it's just about good time management, setting aside time on the weekend, or setting aside your study day and knowing I really have to get it done on the study day. So it's just about planning it out and being driven to do what you've planned out. Yeah.
Thanks,
Oh,
Nala.
I will add actually quickly. Your co-op network is really good. So you will have friends in your cohort who will like have a group chat for classes, remind you about exams, assignments. So I really appreciate that while doing placement. Yeah.
Michelle, would you have a comment on the difference between actuarial and finance and banking?
Yeah, I would say we do have a actuary team within banking and finance, and then because I've done business degree, but to Kay's point, you know, like in many careers, there are times that you have to work hard, and then work-life balance, you have to actually adjust it, but as long as you're not burned out or anything like that. And as with studies, you do, while you're studying, you do have to like Nala said, surround yourself with your friends, the same cohort, so that they can remind you, and you can plan. The main thing is, I would say, planning. You have to plan out the week and the assignments. Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Thank
Barbara,
you.
any other burning questions there?
Yes, we have. Lucky already answered the question, how does the co-op program fit into jumpstarting your career journey? We have a question about applications. How many applications do you normally receive, estimate, and how many positions will you offer?
Okay, probably that's best for me to answer. We get somewhere between 800 and 1,000 applications every year, and we will offer, and we never know this until towards the end of the year, it's about, but our target will be 80 to 85 scholarships. We typically do we do 300 plus interviews. So many students get an interview. So from somewhere between 800 and 1,000 applications, there'll be maybe 300 students who'll be interviewed for those opportunities. So and then it's how the interview goes, and we drill down from that 300 to 80, 85, 90 in a good year across all program streams. So they're the odds. If you're good at math, you can tell they're not bad odds.
Thanks, Kay. And the last question, and maybe for Lockie and Nala, do you have any advice on how to meet people in areas of business we might be interested in? So now at this stage, while they're in high school, what is the best way?
I think, looking back, I think I actually did this not so well. I relied on my placements and my internships to meet people in those businesses, but there are so many events at UNSW, networking events, where literally they bring in people from a wide range of businesses, perhaps in a particular industry, but sometimes just across commerce, and you have the opportunity to meet them. So I think attending those events is something that I regret not doing. And they are really valuable, but and in the co-op program, they actually assign you a mentor who's preferably done your degree and your stream in the co-op program. But I think just generally those networking events are great. But also just think of your parents' network as well. I think one thing that you inherit from your parents is a network. So if your parents know people working in businesses, then find that person, have coffee with them or meet them, and eventually they'll expand your network. That's the great thing about networks, is you only need to start with one person and it just expands by itself. So yeah, that's my advice for that.
Yeah, I think he said really well. The uni does run a lot of these events, so even if you're not in the co-op program, I think especially a lot of the societies will collaborate with companies to offer panels, career nights, networking events, like you said. So that's really good. And I think if you have an opportunity like an internship and you're there, don't be shy about asking about projects that you might be interested in. People are like more than happy than you think to accommodate you on your interests. So just go for it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that, yeah, I think we've probably covered most of the questions, or are there other burning questions?
There's one more question, and I
Okay,
think
yep,
that can be
yep.
our last question for tonight. Shreyas is asking, how many positions do you normally offer for Actuarial Co-op?
Karen, you can answer that.
Karen.
So I will say this depends year on year, like Kay says. I know from our current cohorts, in any given year, we could have, 9 to 13 scholarships. So unfortunately, my answer is not really an answer, but it just depends. So it just depends on the year and just the number of sponsors that sign on.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll just basically call this to a close now. But Karen, can you flick back to the last slide? I'll just leave you with the key facts about the co-op program so that you can think about those. I think that hopefully you've heard some really interesting stories tonight, some really interesting journeys, and you've heard some really good advice about being curious, about being courageous, about being compassionate, but also about being open-minded, collecting mentors. The question about how do you ask people? Do you know what? People love to talk about themselves. You will be surprised. If you ask someone to share their career journey or their experience with you, I defy many people to say no. People are really interested to do that, and particularly people who've had some experience, they're really keen to share it. So it's really, usually the impediment is you, that you're a bit too nervous to ask or you're embarrassed to ask. Don't be. Ask, and they will love to answer, and make it as broad as you possibly can, as I said. So here's the information about the Co-op program. There's the scholarship this year. You from next year, sorry, will be $21,600 per annum, plus the rest, another $400 that goes towards your training and development. But the professional development, the industry experience, the friends and the fun that you have, and I hope that you've got a little bit of a feeling for that, is just fabulous. Applications are open now and they close on the 30th of September. We would love to see applications from all of you. So thank you so much to Michelle, to Nala and to Lockie. Go off and enjoy your Portuguese adventure. And thank you to all of you for giving up your time tonight. And I hope it's been worthwhile. You will hear from us with some material following on from this, and any questions that we haven't answered, we will answer. So thank you very much. And I hope everybody has a great night.